Good morning, everyone, and welcome to People's Church. Whether this is your first time at People's Church, or you come every Sunday, or anywhere in between, I welcome you. My name is John McClellan, and I'm from the Sunday Services Committee. People's Church is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association and part of a tradition of liberal religion. Here, our mission is to be a beloved community, embracing and serving our diverse world. So today is the book service put on by David Isaacson, Martha Beverly, Laura Bultman, and me, John McClellan. David Isaacson taught English literature and composition for 5 years at McMurray College, Jacksonville, Illinois, and Bradley University, Peoria, Illinois, followed by 33 years as reference and humanities librarian at Western Michigan University. If he comes off as a stuffy professor, please laugh at him, because words that are really true should be able to survive the laughter test. That was good practice. Martha Beverly has been a librarian for KPL and for Parchment Schools. She's been part of the People's Church family since the late 60s. Downtown, years in, years out, consistently here since Jill McAllister arrived. Laura Bultman is a children's librarian at the Kalamazoo Public Library. She buys, curates, and distributes children's books and thrives in the controlled chaos of children who love books, reading, and learning. And I am the circulation and reference librarian, also responsible for supervision of clerks and adult programming at the Vicksburg District Library, where I've worked for almost 2.5 years. So we have one announcement this morning. So there is a handout. It is now on that table there. I hope you'll pick one up on your way out if you haven't taken one already. On one side is the Library Corner article Lois Luffler wrote last month about the women in the library committee and their work. And the other side has instructions for using the library catalog from home and the instructions for checking out a book. And now, a video from Isaac.
Hello, Kalamazoo. My name is Stacy Ledbetter, and on behalf of the historic Douglas Community Association, we would like to invite you to come to the Douglas to participate in early voting. Michigan voters voted it in, and we are one of 4 sites in Kalamazoo County where you can exercise your right to vote early in person, both before the primary and the general elections this year. So please come on over to 1000 West Patterson to exercise your right to vote.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Laura. I am a children's librarian. Normally, in a book or librarian service, I would be reading a children's story. We're not going to do that today because I'm also doing the music. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the children's stuff into the music. So today we're going to be singing 3 songs that I have had the privilege of singing with children at different points in my career. Our first one is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. This is the song that we used to sing every morning during our story times that we did on Zoom for the church at the beginning of COVID. So, and I think Denise was here. Ah, there you are. Denise knows this one. We used to sing everyone's name. So it would be welcome to Martha and to David, but I think there's probably too many of us to go through that this morning. So we're gonna just sing the classic verses that are in our hymnal and up on the board. So I invite you to find a position that's good for singing. I recommend you stand. If you would like to, we can be louder. And we're gonna sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Ready? Here we go. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
I'd like to invite Mara Bear up to light the chalice. And if you are on Zoom, please feel free to type in the chat box. Please feel free to type in the chat box. A chalice is lit in, and then wherever you are.
I know it's usually up there.
We light this chalice remembering the freedoms
long established in our nation. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom from the establishment of religion. We light this chalice honoring those who exemplify protecting those freedoms. Librarians, booksellers, teachers, authors, journalists, everybody. We light this chalice so that by its light we may read all the books. Books with archaic language. Books with offensive material. Books which affirm the diversity of the human race. Books which normalize our varied sexualities. And books which share multidimensional perspectives of history.
I got kicked out of Zoom, so could you, somebody in the back, read the chalice lightings?
Let me move this. Yes, one second. This is Sam from AV. We have chalices lit in Pawpaw, on Cherry Street, in Westwood, and in Munson Lake near Grand Junction.
Thank you. Each Sunday, we take a moment to share with one another the joys and sorrows, concerns and milestones in our lives. If you're here in person, I invite you to come forward, place a stone in the bowl of water, and speak briefly. If you are on Zoom, please type your message in the chat box, and I will read it aloud. Put some more pebbles into our bowl for the joys and sorrows that go unspoken and those in the world around us. And now a moment of silence. When I was first introduced to the proposed revision to the UUA's Article 2, I was drawn to the shared UU values: interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice, with love at the center. I find those values inspiring, and I realized that I live out these values in my work as a librarian. Equity. Librarians and libraries strive to provide access to information, and we want to give everyone equal access to that information. One way that libraries do this is to provide public access computers, where people can do research for school, apply for government benefits, get health information, or just browse social media if they don't have a computer or internet access at home. Transformation. Libraries are always adapting to the changing world. People tend to think of libraries as places where they can check out books, but libraries have transformed into much more than books. Many libraries provide social and educational programs for people of all ages. Some now have libraries of things where people can check out non-book items, everything from cake pans to power washers. Many libraries provide not only access to technology, but also assistance with it in the form of one-on-one help or computer classes. Some libraries have collections of seeds, known as seed libraries. Some libraries have collections of spices. Pluralism. A library not hindered by censorship or narrow-mindedness is the best celebration of diversity. Many librarians, especially those who serve youth, are now making a special effort to include books about diverse characters so that every person can see him, her, them, zir, or himself represented in their reading material, whether that's race, color, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or social circumstances. With such books in a library's collection, not only can individuals see themselves in fictional characters and worlds, but they can also have their perspectives widened by reading about people who are different from them. A diverse collection means that some people say with relief, "Finally, someone like me," while others say with refreshment, "Finally, someone not like me." Generosity. Librarians are all about sharing resources. The library itself and its staff are there to give resources to the library's community. As a librarian, I give my time and knowledge and compassion to patrons, and I see the clerks I supervise do the same. Whether this is a clerk giving of her own resources to teach a class on how to make beautiful greeting cards, or another clerk spending 15 minutes making sure a patron gets exactly the book she wants. Justice. Libraries are facing a struggle for justice. Book challenges used to be one person, often a parent, trying to get a single book banned. Now there are websites where people can download kits to help them challenge dozens of books all at once. School districts and governments at all levels are passing laws designed to keep diverse books out of the hands of the young people who need them. Teachers could be sent to prison for providing a book to a student because a few people consider that book pornographic or harmful, usually because the book has an LGBT character or it mentions race. If public libraries don't ban books, their communities have the power to defund them and potentially shut them down. While the majority of US adults don't support book banning, those that do are becoming very loud and very powerful. This is where interdependence comes in. We need to honor the interdependent web of all existence and, with reverence and humility, acknowledge our place in it. The world is a big place, and we humans need one another with all our varied differences. We need to create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice, and work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Can we do it? That remains to be seen. The words for this morning's offering come from Heather Christensen. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, living our values, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. If you've brought a book and not yet put it on the table, feel free to use this time also to make your book offering. For those of you on Zoom, this is the time to start thinking about your substitute book offering. At the end of the service, when the in-person participants are doing a physical book exchange, share in the chat box your favorite book and why it's so meaningful to you. The offering will now be received. Please join me now in giving thanks for all that sustains us. You can find the words in your order of service or on the screen. For the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone. And now we hear from Martha Beverly.
My offering today is about my journey of self-education through reading banned books by LGBTQIA+ authors. I was born in Chicago in 1944, grew up in the suburbs, and entered Kalamazoo College in the fall of 1962. Eventually, I became an English major and was amazed decades later that no professor ever told me that some of my favorite authors were LGBT+ I realized in my 40s that I harbored negative stereotypes about LGBT+ people, which I had absorbed in my youth from gestures and raised eyebrows, never language. When I confronted my thoughts, I realized that I needed to recognize and reject what I carried in my heart, and instead live the positive affirmation and dignity which I believe all people deserve. But even though I wanted and tried to be an ally, I was still ignorant of the realities of LGBTQIA+ people. At church, and especially in my sacred harp singing across the Midwest and the South, I developed many strong friendships with LGBT folks, and yet I understood little of their personal struggles. So, on to banned books. You know well that in the last few years, books portraying LGBTQIA+ lives are being challenged. As a young adult librarian and a strong advocate of reading banned books, about 2 years ago, I began reading the recently challenged books written by authors who I self-identified as LGBTQIA+. Once I thought that most of reality was binary, a choice of this or that. Boy, was I mistaken. What I learned from these books is that LGBT people experience a wide spectrum of realities and choices and must find their way, their preferences, their comfort level somewhere on that broad path. For some, it takes years, perhaps while they are also struggling with outward rejections from family, friends, employers, and more. Reading books from LGBT+ authors about their own experiences has led me to deeper awareness and understanding, and I feel that I can be a better ally now. For those of you nearer my age of 80, we grew up during a closeted time when none of this was discussed. We find ourselves largely ignorant. So I encourage anyone of any age to go to our excellent libraries, including here at People's Church, where you will find these books and many more. Read, learn, and love more deeply by developing better understanding through deepened knowledge. Read a banned book, get smarter, love more.
All right, I'd like to invite Catherine and the rest of my family up. So this song is a Peter Mayer song that we sing during Peace and Nature Camp, every morning during Peace and Nature Camp. So we're going to, Dolores has very kindly lent me our rather bedraggled set of motions here. Catherine is going to do the motions for us, and Alex and Mike are going to hold the paper up. So if you guys want to come up here. All right. Feel free to do the motions or sing if you know the song. For some reason, something about this peaceful song always makes me choke up a little bit. So I don't know what that is. We're not going to investigate that right now. We're just going to sing. Ready? Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. As if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the
Good morning. I want to offer a few minutes of reflection on the First Amendment and something related to it, but I think rather importantly different, academic freedom. But first, a personal reflection. I grew up near Donna. She grew up in Hammond, Indiana. I proudly grew up in Gary, Indiana, not very far away. Some other people from Gary? Oh, wow. Great. Well, we're from the region, the Calumet region. Steel mills, rough and ready people, a community of people from all over the world. I was lucky to be near people with a variety of accents whose first country wasn't the United States. My mother tried to read her way through one of the branch libraries in Gary, Indiana when she was growing up. One of my favorite people was a public librarian who saw that I and a couple other rather obnoxious pseudo-intellectual kids wanted to read books in the so-called adult section. And she encouraged us. She was a great reader herself. She made time to talk about the books with us. That was a great deal of fun. So after I was a college English teacher, I had a great deal of fun for 33 years in the somewhat privileged atmosphere of Waldo Library here at Western Michigan University. Let me just read to you the First Amendment. It's worth hearing again and reflecting upon. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Freedom of speech and freedom of press are among the most cherished values we celebrate as U.S. citizens. Unfortunately, they're under attack from people who just don't understand what those freedoms mean. Now, there are some understandable restrictions on the right of freedom of speech. The main one you probably have heard of, and it was enunciated in a court case way back in 1919 called Schenck versus the United States. A man named Schenck refused to be inducted into the draft because he didn't believe in our cause in the First World War. That got litigated, and in the discussion of what freedom of speech meant, Supreme Court Justice Holmes said he thought freedom did have a restriction, but only under certain circumstances. You could not, or you should not, cry fire in a crowded theater when there was no fire. You could cry fire, and you should cry fire, if there actually was a fire. But if you were out of some sense of mischief or worse, You could, of course, cause a stampede. People could get hurt or killed. So that's really the only restriction we have. Now, we have good taste. People can say all sorts of ugly, stupid, ridiculous things. But as long as they're not actually causing some dangerous action, we are among the few countries in the world that really believe in freedom of speech. Now, there's something related to that I enjoy as an academic librarian, but also enjoyed as a graduate student, an undergraduate student, and I would argue also in high school and grade school, even elementary school. And that's called academic freedom. Let me give you an understanding of what that means from a very famous work by the essayist and philosopher John Stuart Mill in a very famous book of his called On Liberty. And here's what he has to say about what we now call academic freedom. He who knows only his own side of the case knows little of that. Let me repeat that. He who only knows his own side of the case knows little of that. His reasons may be good, and no one may have been able to refute them. But if he is equally unable to refute the reasons on the opposite side, if he does not so much as know what they are, he has no ground for preferring either opinion. Nor is it enough that he should hear the opinions of adversaries from his own teachers, presented as they state them and accompanied by what they offer as refutations. He must be able to hear them from persons who actually believe them. He must know them in their most plausible and persuasive form. Now, this is highly idealistic, I realize. It's at the heart of what debaters learn. You don't know your own side until you really understand what you think opposes your side, if you're going to win a debate. But if you're going to learn more broadly, if you're really going to learn something, you want to have teachers and professors who are able to encourage you not to memorize only, but to understand and to be able to argue in a logical sense, but even in an emotional sense. You don't know your own side until you know what opposes that. And I was lucky enough in this privileged atmosphere of the academic library to be able to talk about these things and exercise that right with fellow professors and with students. We didn't have book bannings, but today, if I were in the library, the university library today, there are threats, unfortunately, from well-meaning people, but narrow-minded so-called liberals on the left, with their trigger warnings and their shouting down of people that they disagree with. And of course, there's the more obvious threats from people on the so-called right, many of whom think they're conservatives, but they're not. They're not real conservatives. They don't believe in conserving things, and I could go on and on. I have a few other things to say, but talk to me afterwards.
All right, so now we have some questions for sharing and listening. So I would invite you to separated to groups of 4 to 6 people. You can turn your chairs around. You can move around. If you're in Zoom, you'll be divided into breakout rooms, and just discuss for about 15 minutes. So some guidelines for discussion. Please speak the truth as you understand it, and do not comment on others' comments until everyone has had a chance to do the initial sharing. So the questions are on Zoom. They're in your order of service, but I will read them. So question 1, what part do libraries play in your or your family's life? 2, how have you or your family been affected by banned books, book challenges, or censorships? And 3, how do you celebrate your freedom to read? All right, discuss.
It is time to come back to the group now so we can sing our closing song.
No, you're fine, you're fine. All right. Someone once said, there are good books that are only for adults, but there are no good books that are only for children. And I feel like that's sometimes true about songs as well. So we're going to end with a classic children's song, which I sing every time I do story time at the library. We were originally going to do the words that are in the hymnal, but instead, I'm going to guide you through the words that I use with my Storytime kids on Friday mornings at the Kalamazoo Central Library. Ready? It's This Little Light of Mine. Here we go. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, this is everyone's favorite because we get to yell no. If you know what a bushel is, see me after church and tell me. What we're gonna do, hide it under a bushel? No, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel? No, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel? No, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Good. Don't let anyone it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let anyone it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let anyone it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Good. One more time. This little light. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
So as we wrap up this morning's service, let's get to the fun part, the book exchange. The rest of it was fun too, right? Yes. Okay, the second fun part. All right, so whether or not you brought a book, there's a book on the table for you, or on the cart, lots of books. So it's just a matter of finding the one, because everybody knows there is one perfect book, right? Yeah. So it's up to you to find it. All right. So browse, listen to music, and then go and get yourself a cookie. Everybody loves cookies? Okay. All right. So Zoomers, If there's still anybody left on Zoom, you can use this time to share in the chat box your favorite book and why it's your favorite, so a different type of book exchange. Now may the love of truth guide you, the warmth of love hold you, and the spirit of peace bless you, this day and in the days to come. Amen. Go for the books.